Hi there! Welcome to the Gardens and Graveyard channel. My name is Charisma, and today we're meeting in the studio and we have a couple of houseplants to transplant. This is the Philodendron Red Prince. She also needs to be given a little bath, but it's been at least probably 3 years since I transplanted this one. And the soil is all the way down here, and she has some roots coming out the bottom. She is definitely ready to be cleaned up, put in some fresh soil. Her sister plant this is a cutting off of this plant, and it is also outgrowing its pot. Debatable if there's some root hairs coming out, but the pot's busting open, so she's definitely like sticking her elbows out and ready to get potted up. So I've got a couple of pots here. The really big one, I went out into the shed, so they're kind of full of pine needles and whatnot, but the big one's gonna go into this one. And likely this guy is just going to get potted up into this one. And then once they're potted up and clean, we will talk about staging them in containers. So I like to plant all of my houseplants in these nursery containers. I just bump them up. It's so much easier to find bigger sizes of nursery containers. And then I like to put them in decorative pots that don't have drain holes. And then they can just be pretty. And we switch out the pots according to the sizes of the plants. But that is kind of how I do it, rather than trying to drill a hole in a ceramic pot and then find a drip tray for a ceramic pot. It just doesn't, it's not very easy to do. Super easy to just put the drip tray like this underneath a nursery container inside of a pretty pot, and I'll show you how I do that when we're done cleaning this one up. So the first thing I'm going to do, actually, I'm going to move this out of the way so we have plenty of room to play. So I'm just going to move her out for a moment. And I do have some all-purpose plant food here that I like to use. This is the organic grow from Espoma. All my plants love it, so I have that. I have my pruners, and what I want to do is take off anything that looks like this, obviously. Don't want anything, weak and yellow. And I have a debris pin there. Anything that's crispy and dead, we're just going to pull those things out of there. And anything that's broken or damaged, we're going to take care of all those things first, and then I'm going to take a damp cloth and wipe down all the leaves, and then we will put her in some new soil. I don't like to use leaf shine or anything on my plants. What I have found in the past is it leaves a residue on the leaves, and then they don't photosynthesize as well, and I don't find that it repels dust any better than if I just go through and wipe it down with some water periodically. So just gonna do that. All right, now that I've washed these leaves down and I washed the sister plant down, I'm going to go through and do a little grooming. So this plant had spider mites 2 years ago pretty badly, but all of her new foliage doesn't have any damage. It looks really good. And the sister plant has two leaves with damage on it, most likely because it came from a cutting when this had spider mites, and I treated it. I treated both of them when I did that transplanting. I remember that. And then I think I did one more treatment, just preventative measurement wise. But both these plants are really close to a couple dozen other plants, and none of those plants have any signs of spider mite. So the ones that have the worst damage, I'm going to cut those off. So even though you might not be able to see, but you will see me take off like big leaves, it's because they're the worst damaged. But I just wanted to let you know that we're not having the problem anymore. I just want to get things cleaned up. And there's some things in here like this one. It's so spindly and silly. I took it off of this plant. I will clean up the bottom. You can see there's some just root hairs here. And, but there's new leaves growing. And I will pop this in some soil and grow as a new plant from it. So we'll set this guy to the side and we'll put it in a little container. These plants sit really close to a heater register, so they get dried out really fast, which can cause them to look a little funny sometimes. And take her little decoration out of there. Rhododendrons have air roots, so I leave a few of those on there because this is one of the ways that it stays moist is by capturing air moisture, humidity. So some of these I leave because they're still fleshy, but if they're all dried up and crunchy, I take those off. This particular plant is very heavy on this side, so I'm going to be really careful when I transplant her, but I'm going to see what I can do about righting the angle a little bit, but we'll see. This is one of the really damaged leaves right here. So you can see all of the little yellow pinholes that are all over it. Eventually it'll just keep getting bigger and put holes all the way through. But they haven't grown since I treated it a couple years ago, so it's not like it's not really doing any harm to the plant, but it's just not aesthetically pleasing. You could see the new leaves are super beautiful and clean. And even these are older leaves and they don't have any damage either. Just checking to see. So a couple of things. So because things are going every which direction, I just want to be really careful and try to get it in some fresh soil, and then see if there's any pruning that I need to do after that. So I'm just gonna set this to the side, move our little baby. All right, so yeah. All right, fresh soil here. So here's the tricky part, is getting this guy in here. So I made a little bit of a well. I think I'm gonna put my little tray down to catch some of this soil so I don't make a huge mess. Plants this large are quite difficult to handle. So, oh, there's another one that can come off. Okay. You can see here it's got some roots coming out of the bottom, which tells me that it's ready to come out and be transplanted. Coming. Well, I had a feeling it was going to be too heavy. Alright, it's okay. We'll just add her back in. So with this part, so that it doesn't break next time, what I want to do is bury the stems. So there's like 3 inches of stem here and on this one. So I'm actually going to put this down below the surface. This one kind of came apart. So I'll add that in later. I want to put this crown down deeper in the new soil and bury it so that it can be stronger. And we can put a little support in there for right now to help it not fall out. This one is still attached by root to the crown, so I'm just gonna snug her leaves or her roots down deeper. This is totally fine to do so long as you don't bury the leaves the actual leaves of the plant. So I'm just gonna do this, and I'm gonna take off these bottom leaves so that I can bury even more of the stem. Okay. And we might try to convince it to grow that way. And this one, you can see how it's been growing all twisted and crazy, and really just this little skinny stem for that one, and then this part broke right here. All of this came from this little skinny stem, so it's no wonder it wasn't strong enough to hold all this upright. So I think what I'm gonna do is make some divisions off of this and plant them separately. Like this piece right here that's so large, it's coming off kind of to the side. So I've got this guy. And then we sort of still have this crazy, twisty thing happening. So I'm going to take this one. I'm going to take this one off because it's going the wrong direction from how I want to plant it. And this one is too low. It's going to need to go below the surface. So we're going to take that one off. And this one too. And now I feel like I can plant this piece underneath the soil. All of this will go under the soil. And hopefully root. So just gonna do that and then put a bunch of soil in here. she is. Fabulous. I might be able to put this one in with the other one, so we'll work on that in a minute. All right, so I'm gonna move this out of the way and we'll work on the next plant and then we can get them staged. Oh, it's extra heavy now. I'm gonna transplant this one and then I'll clean it up because there's so many little weak points in it. Okay. As they come up a little bit more. It's well rooted. Okay. This is trash now. And all right, so now we'll go ahead and clean up any dead or broken pieces that just need to be addressed. This one has a cane that's dead. Okay. Alright, so this piece could have been buried deeper. And because it's so weak, I'm going to clip it off and replant it. because it's growing every which direction. And so we'll just bury it all the way up to here in the soil. I'm going to take this leaf off because it's not going to sit properly, and this leaf as well, and maybe even, I think that one's okay. And then this one, it's starting to grow down, but I'm hoping that because I'm planting it this way, I can encourage it to grow the other direction. We'll see what happens. Just need to kind of snake it in there. And then this one is just a little bit weak from not having enough soil. So we're just gonna put a stake in that one. This piece is broken. Okay. Let's flip it this way and see what's going on. It's all good. Some soil on there. Okay. I don't think she's gonna fit in there. So I'm gonna have another one of these guys that I can plant. So let's set this to the side, and you know what? Because I don't have any soil left right now, I'm going to just fill this with water and put these cuttings in there. Oops. Alright, so this one has lots of aerial roots that are healthy. This broke off. Everywhere there's like a little bit of a scar. Some roots will start growing, and I'm just going to put all of this under water. Like so. And we will put this little guy, actually I think I could add this to there, so let's do that. So this one's just gonna live in water for a little while until it grows some roots, and then I'll pot it up and probably give it away to someone. This one has lots of little roots on it. It just broke off because it's so weak and spindly, and there's a bunch of little growth points right here, a new couple of leaves coming up right here, so I'm just going to bury it. I'm actually going to take these very lower ones off and bury this whole stem in the soil, in kind of a, I'll just see where there's kind of an empty space in here, kind of right here. So there's essentially like 4 healthy stems, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm just going to put this 5th one over here. So make sure the whole stem gets put all the way in the soil. Down, just like that. Okay. There we go. so now it's time to stage these. And I'm going to move this one out of the way, and we'll stage the bigger one together. Let's clean up our mess. All right, so this is the decorative pot that the bigger one goes in. And that pot, the new pot fits in here. I double checked. I have a bunch of packing material in there to stage. So let's get that sorted for a minute. Okay, so a couple of ways that you could do these really tall pots. If I were to put the smaller one in here, I can put another nursery pot upside down inside so that it raises the pot that I want to put in there because it's not this big. That pot is too big to put that size in nursery pot. And if I put one too small, like too small in diameter, it's not going to be stable. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put styrofoam on the bottom and sort of build up. And I do want it to be pretty well full coverage in there, and not leave big gaps because we don't want the pot to sort of like rock in there. So then I can pop these down. I kind of think that might be tall enough. We'll see. That's pretty perfect. A lot of times I like it really close to the edge, but because this pot is like almost the same in diameter, I'm not going to be able to stage it with moss or anything. So I'm going to just let it be down below the rim like this much. All right, so now the question is this big enough? I think so. This drip tray will go next, and once it gets down here, it's exactly the right circumference. So that's great. That means any water that comes out of these holes on the bottom of this plant won't end up down here and just pooling and harboring disease and fungus and stuff like that. Okay. Oh my goodness. Okay, so there it is. There's about half an inch around the lip, which makes the plant a little rocky. So I'm just going to come in with a little bit of packing material and just make a little padding all the way around, and I'll sneak it in around the edge of the whole pot. Okay. So that's probably good. It's because these leaves are so tangly and kind of crazy, it's a little bit hard to water. See my water spots on it. So I don't like to cover the soil on this one because I need to be able to see where the soil is because there's so much going on the crown of the plant. So that's gonna be it for this pot. And let me go grab the decorative container for the sister. It also has tons of packing material in here from the last time it was staged. But we're clearly gonna need a different size drip tray now. We might be able to still use some of the same packing material. All right, let's see where she sits. Let's see where it sits in there. It's a little high, so see how you can see the top of this pot. I don't want to see the top of the pot. So, could take out another piece of styrofoam, and I'll have to break this one down a little bit. All right, so it just looks like this with some styrofoam down there. And we'll see how this looks. That is much better. Sitting funny. And then we know this one fits because this is the one that was with this pot before. So, and it fits in this container, which is great. And there we go. And then this one has a lot of rock. So, sometimes I just use these bubble pillow packets from packing to go in around. Okay, and then the next thing I do is I take some more packing material. This one was used in this pot before. And I just slip it around the pot. And then I will get some moss. I've got some sheet moss here that we will just place around the edge of the container, right on top of the packing material, but outside of the container itself. And the idea is just to not really see the container. I don't like putting things right on top of my soil because I get so much humidity in my house that I don't like keeping my soil super wet and not being able to see what's going on. But I do like covering up the rim of the container so that it looks a little prettier. Just kind of slip it in right here. There we go. I just put this size container, I just put half a cup of fertilizer. Maybe a little more since we just transplanted it. And some of these don't even have roots yet. A little bit more water than I normally give it just because they need to settle in their roots. So let's go ahead and put these back in the kitchen and we'll water the big one out there. Look at this thing. It's absolutely beautiful. Well, that project was quite beastly. I'm glad it's over and I won't have to do it again for a couple of years. I'm really hoping that the few stems that we buried that did not have roots will root in, and we have a backup plan if they don't. This thing will certainly root in the water. Yeah, they're getting quite large for their space, so it'll be interesting what happens next, for sure. Lots more houseplants to take care of. All of my trailing rhododendrons my trailing philodendrons all need to be addressed, cut back, new soil, all the things. And then a handful of other plants that just need some help, and you know, some of them just need to be potted up, really super simple, but some of them are a little bit more intense, like these guys. I do have a monstera that's 2 years old that needs to be potted up again. I have a Swiss cheese plant back here that needs to be trellised, maybe potted up, I'm not sure. So yeah, there's plenty more to do. All of my houseplants pretty much are just survival of the fittest. I have over 100 houseplants, and they get watered once a week and fertilized like once a month. Sometimes not once a week and sometimes not once a month. It just depends on what happens. So I don't have my eyes like on them in detail all the time. So things like that rhododendron just getting too heavy and breaking, those types of things will happen if you're not paying attention, or mostly just being too busy to take care of them the way that I would like to. So yeah, but you know, it doesn't stop me from continuing to collect houseplants or continuing to grow them, because I do love having my house full of plants. So I will continue to do so. They just have to be survivors. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope that you're celebrating your life, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.